Hey guys, it's Rob from RM Commodity Trading Advisors. Just wanted to follow up on the entry that was no entry on the heat map yesterday. Just wanted to show you what it looks like when it is a entry. Now this is a supplemental trade since this is something that really wasn't setting up where we had a long-term trend to look at. But what a supplemental trade is, as we're looking is we noticed that the pound was gave us a good heat map signal. So when this gave us a good heat map signal to go short, what we could do is like we did yesterday is we looked at the daily. And when we look across the daily, we'll notice that the pound was sort of flat against the euro. It was down against the Aussie. It was up against the pound, against the USD. It was down against the CAD. It was down against the New Zealand, and it was up against the yen. So there's a little bit of mix, but you'll notice that we're against the commodity currencies, which is like the New Zealand, the CAD, and the Aussie. You'll notice that there's been movement in them up. So that's what's been forcing them down on your when you take a look at your long-term time frame analysis. But this is what we looked at. So we have some movement down that we would want to take a look. Now, when we went to the H4, we'll notice that this was breaking out. Now, the reason why, just real quickly, the reason why I chose the pound Aussie to look at on this breakout here is because the Aussie, when we do our multi-time frame analysis on the long term, it is trending up pretty good. So what I like to do is if we have pound weakness, I would try and look for a nice clean chart that has some Aussie Aussie strength, and then when we have Aussie strength on one side and the pound weakness forcing this down, this helps us move even better because now we have the pound weakness and the Aussie helping move this trade. So when we looked at this, we wanted to verify it. Like we did yesterday, there was no fresh crosses, but today we have a fresh cross going short against the euro. We have a fresh short cross going against the Swissy. The yen was a little bit longer, but you know, the New Zealand, it's been traveling down. The pound sort of flattened out, and that's because of more long-term stuff that's been going on. But we'll notice against the CAD, the Aussie, and the New Zealand again, we have good fresh crosses. This is when we can start considering it again. So then what we would do is we would take a look at our H1 when we took our entry in. What we do for our entry management from the beginning to place our stop is we want to take a look at where it's been consolidating for the last couple of hours. And then this way we could go ahead and take it short. Let me get the oh, this isn't an hourly. I must have made a mistake. But what you would do is you would put it, you would look for the consolidation on an H1. The H1 and everything looked really good. There was all fresh crosses there. I must have transferred the wrong file when I did it. But what you do is you look for a consolidation, you put your stop outside, and then you could go short. And then this was a good trade. This was earlier in the morning. I'm recording this after the trading session. This had a very good day because the Aussie kept on going strong. And what you have to remember is what made this move. It wasn't that we were looking at this because we did our analysis and found that the pound was going short. It was because it was a supplemental trade that we saw from the heat map. So since we saw that, hey, we have some pound weakness, what we do is we say, okay, we have pound weakness here. Let's go ahead and do our analysis. So we went to the daily. Then we went to the H4 and we were verifying that we had the fresh crosses. Then we go down to the H1. We look at the consolidation as long as it's breaking that support. I like to pair it against something that's nice and clean, and I know on long-term basis the Aussie is trending up. So the only way that this is going to go down if the Aussie is moving up or if the pound is going down. So what I played is that since we had it on the heat map, that it was nice and there was great weakness coming in. I played it against something that had the Aussie strength that was normally long-term trade, and this turned out to be a very good trade. Well, go ahead and take a couple minutes to write down some notes about maybe some of the things that you learned from this, and write it down, and make sure if there was any mistakes you made today in trading, make sure you follow this. Look for your fresh crosses. Make sure you're following the long-term trend. This was not a long-term trend, so this would be something, we're not following a pound. This was a supplemental trade, so this is something that you'd normally maybe be out um, in a day or two. We have some good Aussie strength, so this is something that I would still follow a little bit, but this was just a supplemental trade. This is not something that you would look that I got analysis from last night and everything, because yesterday I was not looking at this all, and I still wasn't. I did not look at this today until I saw that supplemental trade that the heat map gave us this morning. But go ahead and take a couple minutes, write down what you learned here, and if you're making any mistakes on any of this, make sure you don't do it in Monday's trading. Have a good one.